As the saying goes, to do a good job, one must first sharpen one's tools. The ability to manufacture and use tools is one of the important symbols of humanity. As new energy vehicles based on new technology, the maintenance process is indispensable without the support of tools. There are mainly two types of commonly used tools for the maintenance of new energy vehicles. One is disassembly and assembly tools, mainly insulation disassembly tools. The other type is testing tools, including digital multimeters, clip-on ammeters, insulation resistance testers, and discharge equipment. Insulation tools are mainly used in disassembly and assembly operations of new energy vehicles. Insulation tools are processed using insulation materials and are used for operations, such as disassembly and assembly of electrical systems. For the disassembly and assembly of high-voltage system components of new energy vehicles, insulation handles with a withstand voltage of over 1000 volts must be used. Compared with traditional ordinary tools, insulation tools have insulation, high voltage resistance, flame resistance, and anti-slip functions. Except for the contact points with components, insulation tools are insulated in other areas. The insulation layer is usually marked with red and yellow colors. Insulation tools need to be inspected before use to ensure their safety and usability, including checking whether there is obvious damage or breakage on the surface of the insulation tools, and whether the markings on the insulation tools are clear and visible. If there is wear or unclear markings, they need to be remarked or replaced. The digital multimeter is a basic testing instrument for new energy vehicles and should meet the safety level requirement of Cat 3. Digital multimeters usually have functions such as detecting AC/DC voltage, current, resistance, frequency, temperature, diodes, and capacitors. So, how should we check the digital multimeter? Firstly, check the leads. Insert the black test lead into the COM input terminal, the red test lead into the voltage input terminal. Then turn the function range selector switch to the ohm position, and then perform the short circuit test and open circuit test. In the short circuit test, short the two leads, the display should show less than 0.5 ohms. In the open circuit test, open the two leads, the display should show OL. Apply the multimeter to measure the battery voltage. Adjust the multimeter to the DC voltage range, and then connect the test leads to the positive and negative terminals of the battery. At this time, the multimeter should display the voltage value of the battery. If the displayed voltage value differs significantly from the nominal voltage of the battery, it indicates that there is a problem with the multimeter. The clip-on ammeter is composed of a current transformer and an ammeter. The core of the current transformer can be opened when the tightening wrench is tightened, so that the wire through which the measured current passes does not need to be cut, and it can pass through the gap opened by the core. When the wrench is released, the core closes, and the wire through which the measured current passes becomes the primary side of the current transformer. As a result, induced current will be generated on the secondary side and sent to the clip-on ammeter for measurement. The clip-on ammeter needs to be checked before use. Visual inspection: the appearance should be clean and undamaged. The jaws should be closed tightly, without dirt or rust, and should be opened and closed several times to ensure flexibility. Short circuit test. Short the two probes, the display should show 0. Open circuit test, open the two probes, the display should show OL. When measuring current with a clamp meter, it is necessary to select the appropriate current range. Open the jaws, clamp the wire in the middle of the jaws, and the biting parts of the jaws should fully engage each other. If there is a gap in the biting parts, it will affect the measurement accuracy. The instrument can only measure one current conductor at a time. If two or more current conductors are measured simultaneously, the measurement readings will be incorrect. Insulation resistance testers are mainly used to measure the insulation resistance of electrical equipment such as transformers, motors, cables, switches, electrical appliances, and insulation materials. To ensure the normal operation of these equipment, electrical appliances, and circuits, and to prevent accidents such as electric shock and equipment damage. New energy vehicles introduce high-voltage systems, and high-voltage wiring harnesses must have a certain insulation resistance value to ensure the personal safety of users and maintenance personnel. To measure whether the insulation resistance of high-voltage wiring harnesses meets the standard, an insulation resistance tester is required. Insulation resistance testers are available in manual and digital types. Before use, the insulation resistance tester must be checked. How should we check the insulation resistance tester? Firstly, check whether the insulation meter itself is working properly, and inspect the measurement leads and probes of the insulation meter to ensure that there is no damage or looseness. Secondly, perform an open circuit test. Select the maximum insulation test voltage for an open circuit test. The insulation resistance should be 11 gigohms. Finally, perform a short circuit test using the minimum insulation test voltage. The insulation resistance should be 0 ohms. It should be noted that the insulation meter carries high voltage power when it is working. Insulating gloves must be worn when insulation meter tests are performed. In order to standardize the use of insulation meters, insulation resistance meters can be used to test insulation. Select the maximum insulation test voltage of 1000 volts. Operate with one hand and measure the insulation resistance value of insulation. The insulation performance test of insulation must be conducted at 4 points around the vehicle. The insulation resistance is greater than 500 megohms. Discharge equipment is used to release residual charges after power off during electrical equipment maintenance. It must be checked before use. How should we check the discharge equipment? Visual inspection. Check whether the wires and test probes are damaged or broken, and whether the body of the instrument is bumped or damaged. Align the red and black test probes of the discharge equipment with the positive and negative terminals of the low-voltage battery, ensuring good contact between the test probes and the terminals. At this time, the indicator light flashes. Swap the red and black test probes of the discharge equipment and test the positive and negative terminals of the low-voltage battery, observing the changes in the indicator light. During the operation of new energy vehicles, when using high-voltage maintenance tools, it is necessary to first inspect the tools to ensure that they meet the requirements of high voltage, ensuring personal safety. Secondly, it is necessary to standardize the use of maintenance tools to ensure the accuracy of measurement data. Prevention is better than cure for safety issues. We must be responsible for our work and respectful of life. Please consider the following 2 questions. 1. How should we check the insulation resistance tester? 2. Why is single-handed operation required when using the insulation resistance tester?